How's it going, everybody? We're back again.
Mm-hmm. I bet you
We
missed
made
us.
it. We made it through the holidays,
Mm-hmm.
celebrating Christmas and New Year's,
Yeah.
and we decided, oh yeah, we got to do this podcast thing again.
Yeah. Kind of forgot about it,
We're back then.
huh?
Don't worry. Even though Jake went through his sickness, and I think I'm
Yeah.
going through mine now, so
Yeah.
we're gonna toughen it up and
Yeah.
get through this.
Yep. We'll make it.
Yep. But this week, the topic is going to be 13 cognitive distortions, right, Jake?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I was going over these this week, and essentially the main definition from what I gathered is that they're exaggerated patterns of thought. And oftentimes they're developed patterns. These sometimes often deal with people who have low self esteem, anxiety, depression seem to be correlated with almost all of these that I read about. But as I was looking over these, I was like, okay, like, do you have any issues with any of these, Jake? Like, are any of these things that you ever even experienced?
I mean, yeah, almost like all of them.
Oh, really?
You've never had trouble with any of these?
No, I've had trouble with all of them,
Oh,
but like,
yeah.
just I don't envision you having issues with any of these. Like,
You wouldn't
it doesn't
picture
seem
me
like there would
having?
ever be an issue.
Huh.
No, I mean, you're usually pretty low key, even keel. Where like, I'm pretty sure we could probably go over stories of me blowing up over each and every one of these specific issues.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I just keep it to myself a little bit more. I mean, yeah, in my head, obviously, you're gonna have all of these, but maybe just we express it different ways, I guess.
No, yeah. As I was just going over this list, I was thinking, I was like, okay, this is going to be a lot of me talking and like trying to figure out what these terms even mean.
Oh no.
Like,
No.
um, but to get started off, the very first one is overgeneralization, and so that correlates to saying things like always,
Mm-hmm.
never, everything, nothing. Like, uh, nobody ever puts their dumbbells away at the gym,
Mm-hmm.
or that person never looks happy.
Right.
And then I was trying to think of other ways that it relates to me. Um, and again, I think as we go through all of these aren't maybe things that we say verbally, but they're those inside messages that we're talking about inside of our heads, and that's why they're called exaggerated patterns of thought, because it's
Mm-hmm.
that inner voice, and that's something. Actually, since New Year's, I removed all forms of social media because I felt myself just consuming a lot. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
scrolling, and then that scrolling I talked to you about previously, where the things I consume, I hear, I see, just
Mm-hmm.
like creating, oh, this guy's over here, this guy's over there. They have contradicting thoughts, and just like causing my brain to just be like all over the place. And so it's helped me to stay more grounded, I would say, and just focus on the things that are surrounding me, like things that are going on here in Pompano Beach or with my family when we share our VR time,
Mm-hmm.
and not all the things that are going on all over the world. And I guess the enlightening thing for me has been that while I've done that, there always used to be this idea where people would share, stop listening to the news. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's all fear mongering. It's all just, if you just listen to the news, like, you're going to be stressed. You're
Right.
not going to be happy. And to me, this release from social media and stopping and not being so consumed by it has had that same effect, where it's just like, oh my gosh, like, all that stuff that's going out there in social media land doesn't matter and it doesn't apply to me. But when I'm sitting there just like scrolling, like, it
Mm-hmm.
does apply to me because it's
Mm-hmm.
right there. You know, go. I'm seeing it with my eyes, going into my mind, and then it's a thought, and then it's these things that just go reoccurring thoughts that go on and on and on all over my mind. And I think also living in a big city, whether it's Chicago or a place down here like Miami, when you have so many options, what you could go do today, where it can be overwhelming. It's like, oh, I could go do this, or I could go do this, or what should I go do? Whereas like growing up in Sturgis, Michigan, like there's a limited number of options.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
do you guys want to go to Savory? Do you guys want to go to Fiesta Mexicana? Do you want to go to Chinese? And if you don't want to do any of those, well, we used
What
to
do
have
you
a
want to
bowling alley. Now we don't have a
eat?
bowling alley. So it's like, well, I guess we're going to play board games. Like,
Yeah.
that's the only option,
Yeah.
unless you want to drive maybe an hour and a half. And then you have to try to figure out what's even going around in Kalamazoo in terms of activities or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. So, uh,
Yeah. But I think the whole social media thing, it's like social media, the news, all of that kind of just in one idea. It's like once you stop listening to that stuff, it really makes you start thinking about what actually matters and what impacts you in your life. Because it's like, sure, this stuff may matter, kind of, but it's like none of it really affects you. Like, okay, well, this celebrity said this or that. It's like you don't even know that celebrity. You've never met that celebrity. What are their thoughts or opinions even matter to you? Or it's like even if like a celebrity like a song artist dies or something and you see that and it's like okay, sure you like their music, but like what effect is that going to have on you in your personal life? It's like you don't even know that person. So it's like it's just putting all of these emotions into your head, and that's just kind of what social media is and the news. It's like negativity sells, and it's so exaggerated. Like it's just so much negative, so much negative. Sure, every once in a while you'll stumble upon a positive thing and you'll feel good for a moment, but then right after that it's like negative, negative. Somebody just got shot. This guy died. It's like this guy got ran over by a car. It's like what are you supposed to think, you know? It's just setting you up for failure over and over and over in the mental space, and it's like a constant uphill battle.
so I have a secret for you, Jake.
Yeah.
You know that like we are posting this on YouTube, which is a form of social media, and the only way
Yeah.
we're gonna get people to watch it is if they're actually consuming social media, right?
Yeah, no, I get it, but it's yeah.
So like, let's keep quiet on that because you're like shooting ourselves in the foot. It's like we might as well stop making the podcast and recording
Yeah.
this. We might as well
Yeah.
just, like talk on the phone and say forget the podcast.
Yeah.
But I completely understand and agree with what you're saying. However, in today's day and age, I think a lot of people are using social media. They have the intentions of being able to market themselves
Right.
or whatever it is they're doing so that they can gain attention and hopefully maybe be profitable from whatever that is. Maybe not. Maybe it's just to gain attention and have friends. I mean, it's always nice to have friends and to enjoy that. Uh, but in so doing, sometimes we're just consuming and then we're, getting worried about everything that's going on and all these options. And that's my biggest concern is as technology advances, that there's just so many options that each individual person, the more options they have, the more individualized that they become.
Mm.
So the more different I become than every single other person, and the more different I become than every single other person, it makes it really difficult to try to connect. And so that's one of the concerns that I have for the family unit is that, whether it's spouses or children's with their parents, the more individualistic they come, it seems like the less need there is for that family unit. But also, the more individualized we become, the more alone we become because we've separated ourselves from other people so much to the
Mm-hmm.
point where we're looking at all these things about how we disconnect and we don't connect as much. And so that's like the struggle that I have with social media. It would be like saying, social media is always bad or
Right.
it always creates problems. And it doesn't. It does a great job of connecting. But for me, uh, from not being on it, I've really had a big relief of just anxiety and stress and worrying about maybe it's my people pleasing desires and mentality that have really allowed social media to take over my mind and maybe just make it difficult for me and
Mm-hmm.
cause stress and anxiety. So,
Yeah. I think that's
I mean, you ever
probably that's probably one of the biggest things that I realized because the only form of social media I have per se is like YouTube. I'll get on and watch some YouTube videos every once in a while, but other than that, I used to be on Twitter and Facebook and all this other stuff, and it's just like you look back at it and it's like on Twitter I was reading a whole bunch of like nothing, and it's I don't know, it's just so much wasted time that I was just reading. Like I have no idea who these people are. I have no I don't know. It was just stuff that didn't even matter, but I was just reading it just because it was there in front of me, and it was so silly.
But that's really cool that you were able to realize that at such a young age. Because me being 40, like Instagram is really cool just to be able to connect with people and see what everybody's doing and be like, oh, see what else could I do? What else could I do? Especially, in South Florida, I've kind of tried to make friends and try to figure out how can I go make friends that share the same value system,
Mm-hmm.
the same belief system. So I've really tried to seek that out. It's like, well, where can I find that? And uh, I kind of started realizing that I'm trying to go to these different areas of what it is, and sometimes I'll go back. It's like, well, maybe there will be good people there, but it's like, listen, Chad, you have to live your life, enjoy enjoying doing the things that you enjoy doing. If you don't like going to this church, but you're going there in hopes that somebody else is going to go
Mm-hmm.
there that you can meet, it's just like go do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Like the chances of you meeting that like-minded person at that church or that friend are very slim to none. But if you continue to go to different churches, or you continue to go seek out something that you actually do enjoy, whether it's like going golfing or going to a comedy show or something like that, you're going to have a lot more opportunity finding somebody, finding people who jive with you, who
Mm-hmm.
enjoy the exact same things as you, because they're going to the places that they want to be and they enjoy being.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I got so caught up in this entrepreneurial mindset where you just do hard things. Uh, you push yourself to the limit, and you don't just always, it's, there's strength in doing things that are uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's like, yeah, okay, there is, but uncomfortable doesn't have to mean just unenjoyable. Like forcing yourself to do something where it doesn't suit your beliefs or you're not really engaging. Sometimes it has to do with it's uncomfortable because I'm learning and it's very, very new. And that's what's making it
Right.
uncomfortable, but
Right.
not
Right.
so much that I don't agree with it. And I'm just hoping that somebody else will show up who doesn't agree with it too. And we can like just go
Yeah.
have fun. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, dude.
Yeah. For me, it's just kind of like I think I've talked about it before, but it's just like the energy that you're putting out there. And it's like if you're going into a situation and you already know that you're not going to like it, but you're expecting something good to come out of it, it's like you go in with a crappy mindset, you're going to come out with a crappy outcome. It's not
Yeah.
you're not going to go to some place and you're going to say, "Oh, this is going to suck, but I'm going to do something. I'm going to find something really good and I'm going to get out of here and I'm going to have such a great time." It's like no, it's just not how it works. You put good out into the world reciprocates good, and you attract more of that good energy. It's you keep putting out bad energy and bad energy and bad energy. You're going to attract that because that's just what your mind sticks to, and that's just what you're going to attract all the time. Whereas
Well, yeah, and it's going to be difficult for you to be yourself in that setting when you're
yeah.
just in a, maybe a negative mood or
Yeah.
whatever. But one of the things, going back to overgeneralization, a couple of the things that I always would say, and I feel myself saying in work, is that I'm always getting rejected, like
Mm.
especially when it comes to sales, right? So, sales, you're gonna get a lot more no's than you do
Mhm.
yeses when it comes to sales. So I'm always getting rejected. People are always saying no. People are always uninterested in the property, which there are people that come through and they buy the product. But when you always say that, it's like, well, what happens when that next person comes in front of you as a leasing agent and they're here to see the property? If I'm always telling myself that, then I'm not giving them my best. I'm not
Mhm.
giving them my best attitude, my best presentation, my best empathy, my best compassion, my best questions to try to figure them out. It's just like, well, this is just another person. I got to go through the motions and just see. And it's like, well, hold up. Like, let's reverse this and say, try to actually figure out if they're interested or not. But when you have the same thing over and over and over again, and then I think another thing that I don't know if this is just me or other people struggle with when it comes to like uh, working on a resume, right? And so creating sending out jobs, job after job after job after job. It's like, man, gosh, none of these companies are ever going to hire me. Like, nobody ever comes back to me. I'm never good enough. Uh, and that it's like, but it only takes one.
Mm-hmm.
It only takes that one job to be able to change your life forever.
Mm-hmm.
And if you keep saying never, you're not going to instill confidence. You're not going to grow your self-esteem. You're not going to present yourself. You're going to be afraid to continue to pursue. And as I further myself in life, it's more about me putting myself out there, being mentally tough, being well educated, and just going and talking to people and asking, ask. That's all I do anymore is ask. Like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, do you need help? Like, hey, what can I help with? Those types of things.
Mm-hmm. I think maybe for the overgeneralization, I think I'm a very literal person, so I might say I'll say like the always and nevers and stuff like that, but then a lot of the times I'll kind of sit there and think to myself, like your example for uh, never putting away weights at the gym. And it's like, sure, I'm mad temporarily, but then I kind of think to myself, and it's like, okay, well, how many times have I not done that? Or this morning when my wife and I were walking out of the apartment, there was this lady that lives on the same floor as us, and she's usually like super nice and says hello and whatever. And this morning, she, I don't know, was just in a bad mood or something. And then we walked out, and she's like, and we were just like, man, she's always in a good mood. What happened? And then we were both just like, oh, she's probably just having a bad day. But it's, I don't know. I guess I'm very literal in not necessarily my speech, but my thinking. In that I'm very quick to correct myself in that, I guess.
No, that was a really good example though, because that's going to actually fit into one of our later ones where we actually react to the people's behavior
Mm-hmm.
and not taking it personally to us. So let's go to the next one. We did overgeneralization. The next one is mental filters.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, mental filters is when maybe there's a positive event and then it's ruined by a single negative detail.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like a good example for me is that you go out to this like birthday party or we're all eating out at Savory and we're having a great time. And then I go to get a French fry and put ketchup on it and it just falls all over my new
Mm-hmm.
pants. And I'm like,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
like somebody says something and it frustrates me and then it's just like it's all my energy, my all my
Mm-hmm.
focus is just on that specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or just went to a trip to Disney or something like that and I got a nail in my tire. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
those small inconveniences or that something happens to
Yeah.
where we put all of our mind or energy into that small thing. That's something that I've struggled with.
Yeah. That's something that I struggle with a lot recently is finding myself not trying to not get caught up in, like you said, the negatives, even though the overall experience may be positive, just that one negative thing, and that's all I can think about is that one negative thing. And I find myself not even being present in the conversation or the get together or activity or whatever it is, because it's like all I can think about is that one negative thing. So it's like my body is just on autopilot while my brain is hyper focused on that negative thing. And it's just like, okay, snap out of it. What are you doing? Like, you're sacrificing all of this time together with these people, or you're whatever. You're sacrificing all of that just to think about this one moment that is, you're never going to remember this after today.
Yeah, I think one of the things that comes up the most for me has to do with driving and like other people
Mm-hmm.
cutting me off or anything like that. It's like I could just be driving and
Yeah.
then fucking jerk
Yeah.
off. What the heck? What
Yeah.
the and then just being so pissed off. It's like for the rest of the drive, for the rest of the day, allowing that person to essentially get in your head. There was an old saying, what is it? Like, don't let someone live in your head rent free. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what it is. It's like
Mm-hmm.
that event or just something happened. And it's just like, you're just, what is it called? When you just think about it and think about it over and
Yeah.
over and
Yeah.
over and over and over and over
Yeah.
and over again, man. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I'm usually a very level-headed person, I would like to say, but once I start driving, it's just, man, Bad drivers make me super mad. It's like my wife is like, "Man, you have road rage sometimes." It's like, well, I wouldn't call it road rage, but like it's never to the point where I would like go and chase somebody down. But it's like I'll be in the car yelling at them and whatnot. But it's just like, man, or people on their phones. Oh, that makes me so mad. It's just I don't know, every little thing. But then I'm like, oh no, it's okay, it's okay. And then the next person cuts me off, and I'm like, oh, what the? It's just all over again, and it's yeah.
Oh,
I don't
dude, I
know.
would never have guessed it. I've never
Yeah.
seen you drive and be like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder, where did you get all this from?
I have no idea. I really haven't noticed it since before. I guess before we got married, I didn't really notice it, but she's pointed it out a lot. It's like, oh yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
guess I am kind of like that, huh? Yeah.
I was just what do you think it has to do with the amount of stress that's in areas of your life to where you're so stressed out, maybe possibly thinking about other things that these small things happening interrupt those thoughts, and because they're interrupting those thoughts, it just adds to the stress.
Maybe. I get for me it's not even that way though. Like I'll just be having a good time laughing whatever, just a nice conversation and then somebody does something stupid and I'm just like, "All right, hold on, pause." And then I go to that person and then I forget about it and go back to the conversation, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it
Oh, that's
is.
interesting. Because me with like traffic and stuff like that, it's just like, oh my god, dude, when is it? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like last week was actually a really good example where I was actually finally just able. I was in an Uber, so it wasn't me
Mhm.
driving or anything, but it was like, whatever. I left work early so that I know I'm going to be able to get this location. They're not going to be closed or
Mhm.
anything like that, so I can pick up my car and go. But
Mhm.
previously I was like, come on, like,
Yeah.
and I've been around, and maybe it's the fact that I've been around people who are like way worse than me. And I
Mm.
was like, oh my gosh, dude, like, is that how I am? Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like, okay, I gotta like cool it. Like,
Mhm.
maybe that's what it is. Is I start getting around someone who gets super, super anxious, anxiety, and you start seeing how it affects. It's like, oh, dude, this feels terrible. Like, I don't like how this feels being
Mhm.
around them. And it's like, oh crap, like I gotta chill the
Yeah.
hell out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I notice that a lot too. I would say that's one of my biggest things that I struggle
Out
with.
of all these, is this one?
I would say that one, yeah. Not necessarily the road rage in particular, but just the mind just losing focus and those mind
So
filters, yeah.
something being ruined by a single
Yeah.
negative detail.
Yeah. I would say that's probably one of my biggest ones.
Oh, I never would have guessed that. The third one is discounting the positive. So this is usually associated with someone who has low self-esteem and saying, "Oh, it was an easy test. Like I
Mm.
should have known all the answers. Like of course I got an A
Mhm.
plus." Or it's like, "Yeah, like you hit like 375." It's like, "Yeah, like it's not that
Yeah.
hard. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
like what are you talking about?" It's and I think it's like, just like looking over talent or that. And I don't know, is it low self-esteem because we're not really taking our gratitude or being grateful for what we've done or really being
Mm.
appreciated it, or are we trying to be more humble and not so arrogant and prideful? And that's
Yeah.
something, as I looked over that, it's just like, huh. But sometimes there's arrogance in saying it like that. It's like, oh well, it's not that hard. Well, it's like, oh, thanks, Jake. Like it's
Yeah.
not that hard. Well, I
Yeah.
only hit
It's
like
not that hard for
one
you.
25.
Yeah.
Like, what do you
Yeah.
need? Yeah, right. And so it's really a matter of like, oh, like yeah, this was a really good season.
Mm.
I was seeing the ball really well. I hit really really well. Uh, yeah, like I thought I spoke really well on that podcast or while I was doing that presentation for work or whatever it was, and
Mhm.
say, "Oh, you did a great job on that tour." I was like, "Yeah, like thanks. I really had a good grasp of my thoughts. I was speaking very fluidly. The people were engaged with me, and so I really enjoyed it." And so I was like, "Oh, like yeah, I do 1,000 of them a year.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty easy."
I think like anything else, it's kind of on a spectrum of sure you can it's at a certain point it's humility and you don't want to be braggadocious about it. You want to kind of downplay your achievements because you don't want to overshine on those that, I don't know, maybe aren't achieving. It's just humility. And then at one point, if it becomes your achievements are so great and outstanding that everybody else is like astonished at what you've accomplished, and you're like, "Oh yeah, it's really not that special. It's this and it's that." And it's like, well, you're downplaying everything and everybody, and at a certain point it does get to low self-esteem because you're I don't know, you're looking down on yourself for its, I don't know, maybe your high expectations of yourself, or maybe you're not really seeing yourself for your full potential or whatever. But
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, you're hitting the nail right on the head because it has to do with the acceptance of oneself.
mm,
And so when you say those things, you're essentially saying, well, you're not good enough to get the accolades and the appreciation that you're getting
mhm,
from this thing, or that, well, what you've done isn't measurable to be able to get that. And so then when it comes to other things like that are higher than attainable, oftentimes this is where I struggle with is I catch myself saying, oh, I'd never be able to do that. I'd never be able to do that. It's like, well,
mhm,
yes, you can.
right.
Yes, you can. Yes, you are good enough. Yes, you are good enough. But the issue is that you tell yourself of these other issues that it's no big deal and that
Mm,
you don't make yourself feel special. And that's what life is about when you're presenting yourself to other people or to another job or to even reaching your own goals, is that we have to realize how unique and special we are. And a lot of that has to come from accepting and taking accreditation or taking credit for the things that we've done
mhm,
instead of overlooking it. I would say if there's anything that we probably learned from dad and that like came in to us, it's this sarcastic mindset of this type of a thing where it's like, yeah, well,
yeah.
what do you expect? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like I've always been good. Like, yeah,
Mhm,
like
mhm.
like he was just like, oh wow, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, like pretty easy, wasn't it? Like
Mhm.
it's just like, oh okay,
Yeah.
thanks, dude.
Yeah. I would say that's something that I used to struggle with a lot more than I do now. I would say I'm a little bit more gracious with myself than I used to be, in the fact that, yeah, I see the steps required to achieve certain thing, and if I do those steps properly and if the outcome is what I want, then I'm not going to downplay my achievement, I guess. But you still have to maintain humility, but it comes to a certain point where you have to be able to accept uh, that you're outstanding in a certain way, or that you're doing something right. But yeah, it's all a spectrum.
Without being arrogant or
Right.
prideful, with being able to accept that you also make mistakes, know that, but yeah, it's showing that appreciation for yourself and setting yourself up for a higher standard, that realizing you're above and beyond that and that you can go farther instead of just like, oh, I'm down here and I'll never be able to go up there, or this was so easy. It's like, yeah, like
Mm,
it's easy, but that up there is hard and I'll never get there because that's just hard.
right.
It's a differentiator. um,
Yeah.
so the next one has to do jumping to conclusions, and so this one has to do with assuming to know and then predicting the future. So I think it's like, oh well, I think oftentimes when it comes to entrepreneurship or starting something, this is where people really, really get in trouble, is because they start jumping to conclusions, and it's much easier to tell yourself no, like that's not going to work out. This business isn't going to work out. This clothing line isn't going to be successful. It's a really difficult business to get into, and once you start feeding yourself with all those negative thoughts, it causes you to not even take the step forward, that leap forward. And I think some of that has to do, very good example is how we started this podcast. Is that when you said, hey Chad, you want to start a podcast, and my first response was like, well, what do we have to get this, we have to get this, and it like just like trying to predict the future for creating the perfect podcast on the very first one, instead of
Mhm,
gradually, first we started off with audio and just speaking back and forth, and then you shared the idea, hey, we should post these on YouTube. Okay, so we did that, and then that YouTube, that actually created the creativity of me creating a couple of the comedy ones that we've done previously, because
mhm,
those really wouldn't have been much if they would have been
mhm,
audio only.
right.
uh, so it's created a lot of headway, but if we would have jumped to conclusions about how it won't work, I think that's where a lot of people get caught up, and they just allow their ideas to die because they try to predict the future and assume to know that things aren't going to work out. Like, uh, I think sometimes I struggle with helping our brother Isaac with like the social media marketing because you have to pay to play, right? So you have to try different things with the marketing. You have to put out money out there to see what works. And sometimes when it comes to marketing, it's so easy just to assume, oh, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. It's just not. And then you don't put the money into it. You don't try. You don't make any effort, and you never learn. And so it's like now you're back to square one. It's like we just had an idea to create marketing, but every idea we did, we shot down. And so now we're way back to where we were, where we didn't have any marketing in the first place. So it's
Mhm.
like, what are we doing?
Right. Yeah, I think the whole where my mind went to that at first was kind of just conversations and jumping to conclusions based off of what the person is saying and what jumping to conclusions on what you think their emotions are based off of what they're saying and what their body language is. But I think you brought up something super important. It's like I see myself jumping to conclusions like say I wanted to start say I wanted to start a business or something, and then I in my head I run through the simulation of I go through these steps, I go through this, and I have these difficulties, and what am I going to do with those difficulties and how it's going to go, and I go through this whole process of how it's going to play out, and if it comes out in a failed simulation or whatever, then it's just like, oh, okay, idea's scrapped, I'm not going to do that. And I never even get started because I automatically assume that it's going to fail, and then I just go to the next thing, and I find myself doing that a lot.
Yeah, and this is something a tactic I've tried to be doing a lot better at. Is it's the um, what is it like the first appearance? What's the term? Like if you see somebody, that first impression
Mm,
is I forget what the saying is. Anyways, but it's your first impression of people. I would see this sometimes at the gym, like other people who I thought I might be able to be friends with, like whether they smiled, how they looked, and those types of things. And as soon as I would see those types of things, I would start creating these uh, predictions of the future of who they were or what they were like in my head instead of going
mm,
up to them and approaching them and realizing that we're at a gym. It's an intimidating place.
right.
Some of these people are trying to work hard. Like, you know, you never know how their day's going, what they're going through, or
Yeah.
any of those things. And so you have to be able to interact with people to be able to get a grasp for who they are. And oftentimes you have to be able to interact more than once and more than twice and maybe more than 5 times.
Hmm.
But there's some type of a standard to where once you've interacted, you can get a good idea of who someone is to the point where, okay, now you've created this
Hmm.
idea of who they truly are.
Yeah. Yeah. Which kind of brings us into the next one of that conversational aspect of you kind of get to know somebody and you know who they are, so you base what they're saying, their body language, their everything, and the whole mind reading thing is you think they're saying all these things, whether it be they're saying what you think they would want you to hear, or they're saying things that you think they'd think you'd want them to say, and it's just you're playing this whole mind game of, okay, what is this person actually thinking versus what are they actually saying, and it's like that's doing no justice. And,
Yeah, actually, that's really interesting that you bring this up because I started reading this book right here. And if
mm,
you guys haven't read this book, this is I read a lot of really good books last year. This book is amazing because it has to do with placing blame on other people and then creating the assumptions that we create in our mind, and that we should just start asking the questions. Uh, Asking, what does that mean? Hey, like Jake, you seem like you were really, really angry this afternoon, and that kind of affected me. Like it kind of hurt. It seemed like I did something wrong. Like, did I do something wrong? Throwing that out there instead of me not saying anything, it'd be like, oh, it seemed like Jake was really pissed off. Like, I don't know what I did. I don't know what I said. And then it's just
mm,
like jumping around on eggshells the next however many times we meet. Like, what the hell, dude? Like, come on, Chad, you're better than that. Like, I am better than that to have effective communication and just ask the question instead of making all these assumptions, all these things in my head, going over and maybe talking to Josh and Isaac and be like, yeah, I think I pissed Jake off. Like, he was angry a couple of days ago. And then creating this gossip over there and that over there when I could have just brought this to the table and started talking to you and realized, no, dude, like, I had a really rough day at work. Like, it just
Yeah,
wasn't
somebody
fun.
cut me off.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
the gate at my house isn't working. It's
Yeah.
been zip tied open.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I left and then somebody cut me off and I started yelling at them and now I'm all mad and yeah.
And then I flipped them off, and I
Yeah.
went to roll up my
Yeah.
window, and my middle finger got stuck in the window, and now I
Yeah.
got this all black and blue.
Yeah.
But dude, it has to do with just that direct communication. All these things have to do with our mind, and so many times, if we would just spew out our thoughts and our minds, and I know sometimes it's better to say nothing than it is to say something, or oftentimes the people who are more intelligent are those who hold in their thoughts. But when it's trying to communicate and when you're creating these assumptions of other people, you got to get that crap out of your head.
Mhm.
Like, you just got to get it out.
Yeah. You can't just go through life and assume that everybody is hiding their true feelings and you're actually you're actually some conspiratorial and everybody's just lying to you and this is what they actually think and it's like what the heck, dude, you're never gonna be happy thinking like that and just trying to predict what everybody, I don't know, what everybody's actual thoughts are and you're like, oh well, you didn't actually mean that, and but yeah, you have no idea.
No, I know, dude. But the issue is most of my life, that's exactly how I've thought.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's just me to a T. It's like, oh, they didn't actually mean that,
Yeah.
or they must have meant this, and I'm not communicating with them. I'll talk a lot, but I won't ask the hard questions, or what I used to propose is hard. And we talked about this, and I said,
Mm-hmm.
listen, if you're talking with someone and the conversation just feels like you're always tugging, that's not natural and it's not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what natural and healthy communication is. So if you're looking for a job or you're trying to make friends, there should be this, it should be so difficult to have a conversation with. And if it is difficult, then there's I mean, you should just go and have a conversation with someone else and make different friends. Like, healthy relationships don't work like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just, I don't know. I don't know what created that in my mind. It was just so often where I was afraid to have hard conversations and express my thoughts. And it was a very much a people pleaser. So I always didn't want to hurt somebody because I thought maybe if I ask them this, that will hurt them or this or that or whatever. And so I didn't. And then it ended up hurting me, or I held resentment or held a grudge. It's like, well, what the hell? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hurt them, but I just bombed my mind with all this stuff in my head that just ruined our relationship because I didn't talk, like,
Mm-hmm.
or express the things that I was feeling. Like, it's like, what the heck, man?
Yeah. Yeah, and you look at all of these things and it's like they're all 13 different main things that it's like you're not experiencing one of these every day. You're experiencing every single one of these every day, 24/7,
Yeah.
365. It's like these are constant battles that you have to go through and just, I don't know, these are just mountains you have to climb and you just have to be better about things and you just have to work consistently at getting better at this cuz if you lose one or two of these out of the 13 battles every single day, that's that's every single day you're losing those battles and you're not overcoming those things, and it plays a huge role in your life every day cuz your mind
And I
is
know
so
while,
powerful.
yeah. I know while they're called cognitive distortions, it's all negative mindset. And, a few episodes ago, we talked about the difference between positive and negative. And I think this is a good example of just seeing what that negative mindset, what these do inside of your head, the cancer and the poison that they just create, and
Mhm.
the amount of stress. uh, uh, I would say the breaking down of peace to where you're unable to have any type of peace uh, or anything like that, man. Like
Yeah.
it's all of these things that we're telling ourselves essentially. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of them don't even have to do with what we tell other people. It's what we tell ourselves. Going into the next one, predictive thinking is the idea of I will do bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to be very good at this.
Mm-hmm.
Or this is not going to be a very enjoyable trip. Or this is not going to be a very enjoyable conversation. It's like, yeah, you go into that mindset, like you're going to be like shaking. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like you're right. It's not. If you say you can, you can. If you say you can't, you're right. Or if you say you can, or you say you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
both of that option.
Yeah. And it's like we were talking about earlier. It's just putting that energy, putting your mindset to something. It's if you, like you were saying, if you're gonna go into a scenario and then you think that scenario or that event, whatever you're going to, if you think that's gonna be crappy before you even go, guess what? It's gonna be crappy. And if you go to that same thing with the same scenario, but your mindset is a complete 180, it's sure, it might be crap, but at least you may have some things to take from it. It might be super good and you might make friends, you might make a bunch of memories, and it's you don't know. If you set yourself up for a positive mindset and you have that going into it, it could be crap or it could be super cool or it could be somewhere in the middle. But if you set yourself up with a crappy mindset and you go into that, there is no chance that it's going to be a good event.
Right. And on the complete opposite side of that, I would also say that you would struggle if instead of saying, I will do bad, I will do great or I
Mm,
will do good.
yeah.
And putting the amount of pressure on yourself that or I'm going to win or I'm going to do this. And the idea, the mindset should be that I'm going to do my very best.
Mm,
That's it.
mm,
That's where you get peace. That's where you get happiness. That's where you get confidence. And that's where you go and you compete or you excel and you just give it your all and you allow the results to speak for themselves no matter what that is. You go back if it was a test and you didn't learn enough, maybe you didn't study the right things, maybe your mind wasn't fresh, there's so many things that could have caused this, but did you
mm,
give it your best? Did you study as hard as you could have? No, maybe not. Maybe I could improve this way. Okay, regather your thoughts and then try to do it your best the next time. But it's
mm,
not about I will do bad or I will do great. Uh, I just don't really agree with that mindset of that I'm going to do great and going in there and like I think that's really detrimental to our minds when we tell ourselves those things and then greatness doesn't happen. And it's like, well, how do you lie to yourself like that?
mm,
You know what I mean? I mean, what are
yeah.
your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's just setting your expectations. I think it's setting yourself up for failure. It's like whereas you were talking, doing your best, and if the outcome is great, then great. If the outcome's not great, but you still gave your best, then oh well. But if you say, I'm going to go into this and I'm going to do great, then it's if you do if you do terrible at something and you told yourself going into it, you're like, I'm going to do great. I have to do great. I have to win. And you lose, you do terrible, whatever. That feels so much worse than just saying that you're going to lose and you lose because, I mean, you met your expectations at least. Whereas if you say you're going to do great and you do terribly and you beat yourself up over it, that's even worse than just going into it saying you're going to do terribly.
Yeah, I mean, if you get to that point, you're just a narcissist,
Yeah,
and I don't know how you ever overcome that narcissist
right.
mentality to where you get out of that and you can actually be somewhat healthy and not just arrogant and prideful about yourself. And you can have a deep connection with other people.
Right.
I don't know how you do that.
Yeah.
So going into the next one has to do with magnification, and this is magnifying positives. Like I got lucky,
Hmm.
and maybe saying like I didn't deserve that.
Hmm.
which I could say there are some things where, yeah, getting lucky is probably lucky. Like get a
Mm-hmm.
hole in one, be like, yeah, I got lucky,
Yeah.
especially if I haven't golfed in 4 years.
Right.
Uh, but if you're making a stable income and someone's like, wow, like, hey, like it's awesome that you were able to get that manager position. It's like, yeah, I got lucky. Unless, your mom and dad own the car
Mm-hmm.
dealership or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever it is that
Yeah.
you're working at. It's like, yeah, okay. Hey, maybe you did get lucky, or you know what? No, I earned it.
Mm-hmm.
Creating that, like I earned it. I deserve this. Uh, it's really a lot of these things are all about like building our self-esteem,
Yeah.
and doing it in a, I wouldn't say a positive way, but a healthy way.
Yeah. And it's like that thing of luck is you can be super lucky, but if you're not there to set yourself up to accept that luck, then you're never going to perceive it as you're a lucky person. You may do all of these things and you're super lucky, but if your mindset is telling you otherwise, then you're never going to perceive yourself as lucky. Whereas you might be, but or on the other side of the spectrum, it's like you do all of these things and you set yourself up for success. So you are maybe more successful a higher percentage of the time versus somebody else. And they look at you like, oh, you're so lucky. You're so lucky you do this. And it's like, okay, well, wait a minute. I set myself up for success by doing these prerequisites. And as an outcome, sure, I may have gotten lucky, but I increased my chances based off of what I was doing prior to this. That's not, it is luck to a certain extent, but I'm increasing my odds as much as I can. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, yeah.
But I mean, do you think it's possible to be consistently lucky?
I guess, I don't know. I guess I don't know what you mean.
Just that things would happen by happenstance consistently. Like, oh, I consistently uh, keep playing really good golf, or I consistently keep getting really good job offers. Any type of consistency like that usually has to come
Mm-hmm.
from some type of work ethic or performance or success that you've created, and it doesn't just come out of thin air, uh, from
Right.
luck.
Right. Yeah, I think if it is truly luck and there's nothing effort based behind it that is increasing your odds and it's just pure 100% luck, I think over the course of time it will balance itself out. And for all those lucky times, maybe you're going to have a string of unlucky times, or it's like if you flip a coin and you guess heads or tails and you guess it right 5 times. It's like, sure, that was super lucky. Okay, do it 500 more times. I bet it's probably going to even out to 50-50.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not going to be consistently lucky where
Right.
400 of those times are going to be one or the other.
Yeah.
And if they are, then you flip it 800 times.
Yeah,
But the
yeah, yeah.
more and more you have to do something, it's going to be less consistent when it comes to luck.
Right. I think if if it is overwhelmingly lucky, I think your sample size is probably too small.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But there are some things that you can only do once, and then that's lucky, but it's not
That's
consistent.
true.
It's not going to happen over and over and over again.
That's true.
So the next one is emotional reasoning. And emotional reasoning has to do, I think, very similar uh, to mind reading. It has to do with emotional reasoning. I feel like things won't work out.
Hmm.
Like maybe you start working at a job. The first few days, your manager just doesn't seem to be in a good mood, or maybe he doesn't seem to like you. Maybe the people that hired you aren't the ones that are actually your manager, and you're put in that place. And so it's that emotional reasoning where it's like, dude, this is terrible. I do not like this. I don't like this new baseball team. I don't like
Mm-hmm.
this new school. I don't like this new car. It's like whatever it is,
Yeah.
it's that just idea of things aren't going to work out. So you don't have these glasses that are clean and wide open and have a clear view of all the opportunities, you start just closing them up like, this is terrible. I should start looking for something else. I should start going somewhere else. This is going to be miserable. And once you do that, especially when it comes to the workplace, it's like, okay, like I'm not going to have any opportunity. Nobody here likes me. So then you don't start putting yourself out there and you don't start actually trying to create, and you just start being a systematic robot that does everything that everybody else does. You don't differentiate yourself. And then you just get stuck in that circle. And this is one of the things that I have struggled with so much, where I'll get into a job and you see all the opportunity, but it's like, oh, well, I know that if I go do all these things and do all this stuff, that other people are going to look at me and they're going to think that I'm a kiss up and that I'm trying to be better. It's like, well, yeah, because I am, because I hold myself to a higher standard. And yeah, I am. And it's like, I'm not going to just go through the motions like everybody else here is doing and be bored off my mind and not enjoy this job. So every time that there's some type of issue or there's something that I feel needs to be changed, I'm going to start bringing it up. And once I started doing that, the amount of validation and success that I got from being able to do that, the appreciation and the offers, job offers I got, just increased exponentially, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think where my mind goes with that is like maybe you make impulsive decisions and you end up at a job that you don't necessarily like, and you think your boss is, I don't know, he's out to get you or something or whatever. And I think where my mind goes to that is the whole, I think it's called like sunk cost fallacy. It's just because you put a certain amount of time, a certain amount of money, a certain amount of energy into this effort, this job, this whatever, you bought this big spectacular thing, but now it doesn't mean anything to you. Just because you put all of that into it doesn't mean you have to continue doing something. If you don't like that, make a change. And okay, it's your job. You don't like your job. Go to your higher ups and try to find a solution to it. If not, leave that job or try to find a different job. And then once you find a different job, then leave that job. Just because you put a certain amount of time and energy into something doesn't mean you have to continue doing something just because of your thinking, like, I put so much time into this, I have to keep doing it. It's like, no, this thing that maybe used to fulfill you emotionally, you put so much time into that, and now it's something different. You don't have to continue doing it just because of that.
Well, and I think the normal mindset when I would get to that point, it was like, all this effort is going to be wasted though. Like all the effort that I made, it's like, yeah, maybe the effort will be wasted, but your happiness isn't going to be, your peace isn't going to be.
Right.
What's going to happen in the future isn't going to be. Now, I will say this: if it comes to a job, or maybe it's like a different baseball team, like I wouldn't say that you go down and you like say, okay, like I'm making six figures now. It's like, well, I'll just go work at McDonald's real quick. Like I would say, make a linear move or try to look for other options, and don't just like quit without having any type of a backup or anything like that. But you have to start coming up with ideas and other solutions to be able to make that change and make it possible and make it soon, and putting yourself out there. And I think a lot of that will come back into these negative emotions that we have in our mind hinder us from putting ourselves out there and pursuing other things and being able to write a new resume and then being able to send that resume out. And I don't think that sending a resume out like by email is what you want to do. You want to go into the office, you want to speak to somebody, and if you don't know how to speak to somebody, you need to go into a lot of different offices and learn to speak, and you need to practice with somebody. Get a friend who is well versed in sales or management or something like that. You need to speak to them to know what you need, how you need to be talking to people. You need to be able to go out and go, usually there's trade shows inside of your industry, whatever that is, where you can go and you can talk to people who are suppliers to get ideas of like what the new technology is out there, or what your vendors are selling, and get and you can start talking to those guys just to be able to learn that way while you're in that industry.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get that knowledge, and then you connect with those people, and then you get offered jobs just because of that. You don't even have to go do applications, or go handed your CV resume to people, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's just so many opportunities if you pursue it and if you do it. But you have to have the confidence in yourself to be able to do that. And a lot of us don't have that confidence. Like, we're so worried and maybe concerned about what other people think, or just not having a low self-esteem, dude. Like, I had a super low self-esteem for a lot of my life, just like not seeing how good of a person I was and how educated I was. But as I continue to read and I continue to educate myself and I continue to listen and I continue to ask questions, I get more confident because I hear other people saying how well versed I am, how well I speak, and those types of things, and that helps. And I wish that I didn't have to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that I could just believe in myself and know that I wouldn't have to have that appreciation from other people, but it's helped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think something important that I wanted to pick out from what you said is like with the whole job scenario, it's you've wasted so much time being there, but it's like you've experienced so many things, you've improved at so many things, and it's sure you may have been there a long time and you could have been doing something else, but you weren't. So what did you improve on? What did you I don't know, your skills. I heard recently that your mindset and your ability is something that nobody can steal from you. It's the only thing that nobody can steal from you. Nobody can steal your thoughts. Nobody can steal your ability to your skill set. They cannot steal your skill set. They can steal your materials, your whatever. They can steal your car. They can break into your house and steal all of your stuff. But at the end of the day, you're never going to be robbed of your thoughts and your ability to think. So at the end of the day, that's the most important part. At the end of the day, if you have that, then your ability to make money, be happy, whatever, to progress at certain things is still going to be there. It's yeah, nobody can steal any of that stuff from you. So it's
And that's interesting, because one of the things that I've always just kind of had in the back of my mind, and I've always thought, is that that's what's so special about comedy, is that nobody can create the comedy that you have in your mind, or the ways that you can make people laugh. It's just
mm-hmm,
not something that people can steal.
mm-hmm,
Like, out of all the things out there, like, okay, there's this carpenter, he can lay floor just like this, he can build a wall just like this.
mm-hmm,
There's so many things that other people can do,
mm-hmm,
but when it comes to your creative mind and being able to make people laugh,
mm-hmm,
like, nobody else can do what you do or what I do to be able to do that. And I think also can happen, with speaking engagements, but comedy is something that's been very, very unique to me, where it's just like, it's so amazing, like, how creative people are, and that nobody can come up with the exact same scenario.
right. Yeah, I guess I never thought about that, but that's a very interesting way of yeah. You can some people can copy the style, but there's a disconnect. You can tell it's not the same thing. They're just kind of copying the style. They're not being original with it. It's not genuine. You can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, that's I think I have such a passion and a love for comedy, is because of that. Like, it's
Yeah.
just so unique and it's so special, to
Mm-hmm.
where it's not something that can be stolen or duplicated or changed or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can make my family laugh and smile like nobody else can. And like, it's like, that's not something that somebody is ever going to be able to take from me.
Right.
Because I think you guys know my personality, and like the things I'm going to do, but you
Mm-hmm.
never know exactly what that's going to do
Yeah.
or what it's going to look like. You
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
know that something's going to happen, and it's going to come in some form of
Yeah.
Chad's personality, of what Chad has always done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this past year, it was in the form of me putting peanut butter between two pieces of meat into a sandwich that somebody ate on a special vacation.
Yeah.
Actually, Nick did that. I didn't do
Oh yeah, yeah. Nick did that.
that. So that one we were at emotional reasoning, right?
Yeah, that one was just emotional reasoning.
All right. The next one is should and must statements. I should always get things right. I must be the best. And I think some of these kind of
Yeah.
fall in line with the other ones, right? Like predictive thinking was I will do bad. I
Right.
will always get things right. I must be the best.
Yeah. Some of them are kind of redundant in a sense, but
Yeah.
yeah.
This is one that kind of my perfectionist mentality. It's always like, okay, when I go into work in the morning, so it's leads, right? So people go on apartments.com, apartmentlist.com, and then they've either liked the property or they've sent something into our website, a request for information or something like that. And so on Mondays, that's usually the busiest day. Over the weekend, I haven't been there Saturday, Sunday, Friday night, so I have the most leads.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's like 30, and so I have to try to go through all those leads. And my mindset is that I need to get to these leads as quick as I possibly can before any other property gets there, because that will help, one, to show the customer service factor, two, hopefully get them to come to tour my property. And if they
Mm-hmm.
like my property, that they may not want to tour anywhere else.
Right.
And so my perfectionist mindset is like, okay, I got to do this. I got to go, 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 fast. And sometimes, maybe a resident will come in and maybe I'll miss that opportunity to connect with that resident because I'm so focused on trying to get through all these leads. And as a leasing agent, I've set my priorities, right? So I'm sure with your job, you have a specific things, tasks that you need to get done,
Mm-hmm.
and then that should get done, and then that might get done,
Mm-hmm.
and then that if there's nothing else to do,
Yeah.
we will do, right? So you
Yeah.
have that list, and so sometimes for me, it's difficult when you're the leasing agent, the leasing manager, you're doing the marketing for the property, and you're doing all these other things. It's like, okay, I know I have to do this, this, and this, and this, and these are all super important. So how do I try to figure these out with my perfectionist mindset and just be like, I should always get these all right. I
Yeah.
should just do everything at once. And so it's like, and I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, dude. And I'm so stressed out. And I'm like, holy crap, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of it is just expectations for yourself and setting those and knowing how to moderate your expectations and like you were saying the priority of things, just knowing your capabilities and setting up a schedule around that. And if if things must get done, then give yourself the time frame to do it in a realistic scenario. Don't set yourself up for failure, I guess.
But how do you determine what's realistic?
Uh, unless it's something that you've never experienced in the past, I mean, you can judge it based off of past experiences, and sure, it may be something. No situation is going to be the same, but some of them can be similar, and you can judge it based off of that.
See, I agree with that a little bit. And so I would say in a normal scenario, in a perfect world, that's
Mm,
true. But we live in an abnormal world where there's always other things coming in. So I'll give you an example,
mm,
right? So I have this list of my 30 leads, but I also have the phone ringing with people calling as leads. I have residents calling, I have vendors calling, and then I have people walking in through the door. And
mm.
so it's just like, I don't know how many of those people are going to come in
Right.
during that time. So it's like, how do I set a realistic goal? So my goal is I just have to try to get through these as quickly as possible. And it's always been I get them done that day. It's just a matter of how late in that day do I get them done. And what's been amazing is that no matter how stressed I get, like even sometimes I've been at lunch, it's like, holy cow, dude, like I don't know if I'm going to get all these done by today.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow there always just seems to be this like golden like window that opens up. Maybe the heavens open up and it's just
Mm-hmm.
like calmness. It's like there's an hour where people don't call, where they don't walk in, where the managers aren't asking me questions or asking me to do anything. It's just like oh,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
or I call the people and they're just not answering, and so I'm just leaving voicemails and I'm just uh, do boo 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 boo, where my mind is just able to go 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 go. So
Everything's a balance. The yin and yang.
right, yeah, no, and I'm just saying like sometimes it can be really really difficult
Yeah.
to try to
Yeah. Yeah.
create realistic goals inside of the workplace or try to create those expectations because you have so
Right.
many other things coming at you where I mean and this is probably any role, right? So if you're at Walmart stocking shelves, it's like, okay, yeah, it's gonna be a normal day, and
Mm-hmm.
then you see like a truck full of college kids just get dropped off and
Mm-hmm.
you're stocking like all the pops. It's just like what the heck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh crap, okay, well,
You get hit in
I,
the head with a dodgeball and
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always going to be
Next thing,
outliers.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, the next one is labeling, and labeling is I'm such an idiot or they are inconsiderate. I think this is something that was somewhat similar to what you had shared with your neighbor. You and
Mm-hmm.
Evelyn went out, and you said she's always nice, like she must be having a bad day, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that you guys were able to label, but in a positive manner, not in a
Right.
negative manner. Because often, anytime we react to someone, be like, "Man, that guy was a real jerk,"
Yeah.
like how inconsiderate can you be? Or I don't know how many times you go to Walmart and you're like trying to walk up and down, and like people are just like sitting there,
Yeah.
and it's like there's no social awareness, and I'm like, dude, like are you really like how are you so inconsiderate? And it's just like are they just so zoned in and in the present, like where I have no complete understanding? Because I used to not have that, dude. I would be so anxious and be like, okay, we're here at the store, that
Oh,
what I
I
have to do
know.
is here here
I
here
know.
here 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 here,
Yeah, yeah.
and then like some people they just go there and they're just like
Yeah.
like somehow they can just be off on their own world, which I can be that, just not in the grocery store. So it's
Mm-hmm.
difficult for me to comprehend how people are able to do that.
Mm-hmm. This topic has made me think of a scenario. It's I don't know, most of the people, generally speaking, in the apartment that we live in, they're usually just kind of keep to themselves. Some of them will say hi every once in a while. Most of the time, it's nobody really says anything though. And there was this one time where there was this guy. He had a long, scruffy beard. His clothes were kind of raggedy, and he had a shopping cart with him walking through the hallways of our apartment. And it was like an orange handled shopping cart that we have no idea where it came from because I don't know. I've never seen that. But he was super outgoing. It was like, oh, hi, hello, how are you guys doing? And whatnot. And we kind of looked at each other and joked around. It was like, was that just like some random person that doesn't even live here trying to blend in because he thinks that's what the people that live here would be like? And we're like, joke's on you, dude. The people are like that live here aren't like that, and you're just standing out trying to be like that. But it was just, it was just like, was that guy some guy off the street trying to blend in and be like us or something?
So this is interesting, is that you just made an accusation
Mm-hmm.
that the people at your apartment
Right.
complex don't say hi. But do you say hi to everybody you walk by at your apartment complex?
I mean, not everybody. Sometimes if we'll make eye contact, I'll say hello or I'll give them a nod or something. But yeah.
So this is just interesting because this is something that I've realized probably the gym is really a happy place for me. And
Mm-hmm.
so I used to have this things like nobody says hi at this gym, but then I kind of took the approach is like, well, listen, like Chad, you're a good person, you're outgoing. And so I started making eye contact with it and just saying hi
Mm-hmm.
to people and just saying hi. And it's just like now everybody says hi.
Right. Right.
And it's like they're saying hi to me because I said hi first. And all of
Mm-hmm.
it took was for me to say hi first. And so it's just interesting. And I've also like I guess being new to an apartment complex, sometimes you hope that the people who aren't who have been there for a while will be the welcoming ones, and
Right.
they're just not.
Right.
It just maybe they're not for whatever reason. And so even here on my property, like this is where I work and I live, so I should know all these people. I still had that just like I don't want to bother somebody, right? And that's what that mentality come from. It was always I don't want to bother somebody at the gym. It's like they seem like I'll bother them. Where I just start saying hi and everybody says hi, and now people like fist bump, and it's just like
Mm-hmm.
holy cow, dude! Like it's so damn easy to get people to say hi and have a
Mm-hmm.
connection with someone if you just say it once or twice. Now, there are some people who have said it, and it's just like, okay, they don't ever want to say hi.
Yeah.
That's the person
Yeah.
that doesn't ever want to say hi. But it's not everybody at the apartment complex like I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. It's just yeah, your
I,
personal
it was
view
just,
on it.
yeah, it was just interesting to hear you. As I heard you
Right.
saying that, it
Right.
was something that I caught myself used to be saying. I was like, huh, I wonder where that connotation comes from.
Right.
Does it come from you saying hi to all of these people and them not responding? Or was it a connotation where you
Neither one of
expect
those.
people to say hi and they just don't say hi?
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
And, and then we'll go to the next one, personalization and blame. So this is taking behavior personally, and this is my fault. So that difficult conversation, again, that was when you're having a difficult conversation, you're blaming someone. And I'll give you an example. So there was a couple. They were out at a friend's house at a party, and the girl said, "Hey Jake, like, can you pass me the ice cream? I want to have some more ice cream." Like, and Jake, you say to Chad, you're like, hey, Chad, like, dude, you've had enough ice cream. Like, you don't need any more ice cream. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, dude, like, that was a really jerky thing to say. And so we come be like, Jake, like, we go back home. We're like, Jake, like, dude, like, why the heck did you say that? Like, you made me look like an absolute idiot in front of all those people. Like, why would you do something like that? And then you're like, well, dude, like, you told me last week that you started this diet where you weren't even going to eat ice cream anymore. Now
Yeah.
you're asking for ice cream. It was like, yeah, but you
Yeah.
didn't have to make me feel that way. And so how I started that conversation off was the blame. Instead of sharing with, hey, Jake, like, that kind of made me feel like really insignificant and like really low, like in front of our friends like that. And so dude, it was just like, it just blew my mind how oftentimes when we start these, when we do have the difficult feelings and we do share those feelings, which is already difficult enough because we
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes don't even share that. We just let it sit in our head,
Mm-hmm.
resonate in our head, and
Yeah.
create resentment and get all pissed off and do that. And
Yeah.
when we do have those conversations, we still do them in an improper way to where we're just trying to blame and point the finger because we want to feel heard or we want to feel the pain or maybe we want to express the pain that we felt through that process instead of just sharing how something made us feel and then being able to be empathetic for both of us to be empathetic and actually seeing both of our intentions because it can be quite clear. So that's what, dude, I loved about this book is just getting to that point right there.
Right. Yeah, and the whole idea of, I don't know, for your example of you telling that person that you wanted to get on a diet, and it's kind of their not so roundabout, their very direct way of saying, hey, I'm trying to help you stick to this diet without them actually saying it. And you kind of forget about that. So you stop looking at their perspective, and it's either making yourself the victim or just not empathizing with how they're feeling and their thoughts on the whole situation, I guess.
And even so, maybe they did it in a very antagonistic way,
Mm-hmm.
and they could have done that as a joking way. And so maybe there's a conversation that does need to be said that it's like, hey, man, like like set boundaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Set boundaries because you have to set boundaries to be able to see if those boundaries will be broke in the future, and if there's a consistent area where boundaries continue to be broken like that, especially if it's inside of a relationship, that's a good indicator of like, hey, like listen, like I can't keep getting hurt when I've brought it up and I've shared how these things bother me numerous times before, and they continue to happen. So I think it's an awesome opportunity for both experiences like that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other I think that I always struggled with is taking people's behavior personally. You know, somebody could be stressed out. They could have just had a difficult phone
Yeah.
call, or you're really really busy at work, and be like, hey, um, Mary, hey Mary, like what about this? Like, it's like, oh, whoa. sorry. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I remember how I done that. Like, if they're really frustrated, they're really ticked off today. Like, I want to stay away from them. So I don't ask any questions, and then find out like, oh, well, why didn't you talk to me about this? It's like, oh, I don't know. Where we were just trying to stay away from that confrontation, and in doing so, we've just pulled ourselves farther and farther and farther away to where that team atmosphere, whether it be in the workplace or in the family gathering, like I don't know if you ever remember, like maybe one of our parents was really upset, and sometimes when your parents are really upset, you can't be like, "Hey, like, when are we having dinner?" You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Maybe
Yeah.
that's a question you don't really want to ask,
Right.
but it's like you're getting hungry, and you're hoping that they haven't forgot about
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
but you're like, you don't really know when to bring it up, so you just don't, and then it's left off in no man's land.
Mm-hmm. Because I think it's important to think about like the only point of view that you truly have is your own. So it's very difficult to put yourself in the shoes of another person because you don't know what that person is like. You don't know what their mind is thinking. You don't know what they think about all day. I mean, people struggle. You don't know what any of their life is about. You don't know what any of their I don't know. You don't know what they're thinking about, what they do every day, what they've grown up doing. It's you only know your point of view and what you're focused on right now. And I don't know. I just think empathy is very important.
It is very important, and it's just as important of who we surround ourselves with, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
in the workplace, whether it's in our families, surrounding ourselves with people that are socially aware. And that's why before we did the start of this podcast, me and you had a conversation just about work. And for me, it's not as important about what it is I'm doing for work. It's the people that I surround myself with and how they make me feel. Creating laughter, enjoyable time, but also driven people who are open minded, who have goals and teamwork, but who are also emotionally aware. Who have emotional intelligence, because if someone doesn't have emotional intelligence, all of these things that we've went over and talked about in terms of having maybe the difficult conversations and how you can have healthy conversations, they're not going to be able to do that, and they consistently have issues, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
fight after fight after fight, and that's why I would always have to say that if you're having those issues, you have to be able to remove yourself from those situations, from those friend groups, where that work, that job, and go do something where it's healthy communication. You feel um, maybe not cherished, but they care about what you have to say. They're empathetic to it, and it's not a one way conversation.
Right. Yeah.
Next one is
Catastrophizing.
catastrophizing, and that one has to do with turning mountains into out of molehills.
Mm-hmm. I think I don't know. I think for me, this one is one of the it's on the bottom of the totem pole of I don't know. It's not something that I really struggle with because growing up, Dad was always it was always crisis management was something that he was very good at. So I think by by proxy, I kind of got that skill, and I think probably a lot of us kids kind of have that skill, and maybe something is maybe out of a group of people we would be better off than most in a crisis and trying to manage it. But yeah, I think that was something that he instilled in us that was kind of one of his main the main things that I remember about him is he was always very calm, he knew what to do, very logical, thought out. Yeah.
So I would actually say that as at a younger age, like blowing things out of proportion, that was something I was like always good at. Just always getting frustrated about like the smallest things. Like I get a flat tire, it's like, oh my god, freaking crap!
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh, like just like every small little
Yeah.
thing, dude. Like I would always, yeah.
Yeah.
like we remember that one golf tournament that we played where we didn't get like a trophy or whatever,
Yeah.
and we're like, okay, we didn't. Like, "Ugh," and I remember like
Yeah.
resonating over that for like years and just like telling everybody and just like, yeah, we need to get a trophy. And just like
Yeah.
every small little thing that would happen. Like, how was your weekend? Be like, oh well, I lost 3 golf balls, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like,
Yeah.
just these guys on number 4, they were taking their piddly old time,
Mm,
and it was like, dude, Chad,
yeah.
like, what about the rest of your weekends? Like, well, that's all I remember. Like, it was,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah. And then, so I guess the very last one has to do with black and white thinking, and this is all or nothing.
Mm.
If it's not the best, I don't want it. And I would say this is something that with my perfectionist mindset that I'm extremely particular. If we go back to the golf uh, idea, yeah, I used to take like years looking for golf clubs because I wanted a specific golf club and I wanted to buy it for a specific price, and it wasn't going to get that price until it got used for a couple of years. So I would stay on eBay or OfferUp, and it's been probably, oh, dude, hundreds of hours, way more hours than I'd even saved on the damn
Mm-hmm.
golf club trying to buy it for as cheap as possible. Or, oh my gosh, dude. It's like, yeah, it's like my slingshot that I have right now. It's like it's so unique. Like I wanted a slingshot, but it had to be unique, and that's exactly how. Like everything I own, like I'm very particular, but in that particularity, it makes things special to me.
Mm.
So I don't know how you feel about this, but sometimes when I feel when you're so particular about things, you have that much more enjoyment for them, and it leads
Mm-hmm.
you to like take care of them even more. Like the slingshot, I named it Shira, which was the warrior princess on He-Man, which back was when I
Mm.
was a little kid. And it's like for me, it's like whenever I name something, it makes it
Huh.
that much more special to where I feel like I want to take care of it.
Right.
Like my head covers on my golf club, one is Mojito, that's the elephant, and the other one is Tiki,
Mm.
that's the little cockatiel that's on there, and then I have the little snake that I play tricks with. His name is Whiskey. And so I try to like, I just always try to
Yeah.
name things because that just, I don't know, naming things makes things more special to me.
Huh. It's a way of expressing yourself almost.
Yeah, but again, it goes back where it goes back to the black and white thinking of like if I don't like restaurants, like I don't really like trying new restaurants or trying anything unless you let me have like a bite of it like one
Mm.
time previously. I'm not
Mm.
gonna waste money on buying it.
Hmm.
Like so that's why it's like no, I want to go here. I don't want to try this new place because I know that this place is good and
Mm-hmm.
this place is good and this place is good.
Right.
So I won't really want to try new places unless I'm not the one paying for
Right.
it.
I would say this is probably one of the ones that I struggle with the least because I don't know. My way of thinking is everything is on like a spectrum almost. It's like everything is on a scale. Nothing is 100% good or 100% bad. Everything is somewhere in the middle. Some of them are more close to good, some of them are more close to bad, and some of them vary a whole lot. So I would say this one isn't really something that I struggle with a whole lot just because of, I don't know, my way of thinking, I guess.
Yeah, let me ask you this. So let's say we went to like a clothes store, right? And so we went inside the clothes store, and let's say you had like $500 that
Mm.
you could spend. Would
Mhm.
you be able to find clothes no matter what the clothes store to be able to buy clothes with?
Mm, I don't know.
What's
Maybe,
that?
maybe. I guess it would depend on my mood. It would depend on what I was looking for. It would, I don't know.
So
I would.
so you had a rich person. They take you into this, like they take you into, let's say, a J.C. Penney's or a bigger department store like that. And they said, "Hey, Jake, here's $500. Like, buy any of the clothes that you want." Would you be able to find clothes for that $500?
I would say if the selection was big enough, I would be able to find something that I like.
Okay.
I would say, yeah. I guess it depends on if things were very niche and there wasn't a very wide selection. I guess I like a bunch of different things, and there's not any one particular style of really anything that I like. So it's like sometimes I like things and sometimes I don't. It's not really a particular style that I'm looking for. So I can find, I don't know, I think I can find things that I like in pretty much anything.
Okay. So for me, like if they didn't have shirts like this
Yeah.
and they didn't have the color schemes that I wanted,
Yeah.
or like a certain pair of Vans or something like that, like I would just like be like, I don't like any of the stuff here.
Yeah.
Like I've physically went to restaurants with people and I've been like, I don't like anything on this menu. I don't want anything on this menu. like that dude, that's my personality. That's how
Huh.
it's been. Like
That's funny.
I've went to places like that. Like where else? Like, um, yeah, like I could go to a car dealership and if somebody said like, "Oh, hey, like pick, you could have any one car here." I could
Hmm.
go there and be like, "I don't like any of these cars." Like
Yeah.
even though like I would be getting a free car, I could say that I don't like any of the cars and I don't want one.
Huh. Weird. Yeah,
Could
I don't think I could see myself doing that.
you could
I don't think so.
you could force yourself to find one of the cars.
I don't think it would necessarily be forcing. I think my array of things that I like is such a wide net that I would be able to find something that I would like no matter the
Okay.
circumstance, I guess.
Okay. No, yeah, that was an interesting question because it's never something I've ever really asked anybody,
Hmm.
but it's always something that I've wondered
Yeah.
because of how particular my mind is and what the things I like. Like, I think like I
Yeah.
spend a lot of time. I'll go to like the some clothing stores that I normally go to, but there's often times that I'll walk out of the stores empty-handed. Like I'll
Hmm.
go through and they don't have it, they don't have it, they don't have it, they don't have it, and then there will be like I'll go to like 10 different times and then like on the 11th time I'll go there and somehow they just got this new selection. It's like all
Hmm.
my style and so it's like I get 5 or 6 shirts, but other than
Huh.
that it's like nope, nope, nope,
Yeah.
nope, 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 nope.
Huh.
So
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'd never thought about that, but yeah, I could definitely see that. I could never see
No, yeah,
myself going to a restaurant and saying I don't like anything on this menu. I think I could always find something that I would like.
really.
Yeah.
Huh. What if it was like an Italian restaurant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I like a little bit of everything. I
Yeah.
guess that's kind of
Huh.
my personality and everything. It's I kind of like a little bit of everything.
Yeah, right. And that's what I kind of
Yeah.
assumed you would say.
Yeah.
But I was just like, huh, I wonder, like, am I missing something?
Huh.
Like, would you be able to find something at this clothes store, or would you be like me? Because you, I think most of our family is very like that. Like, it's like they can find a lot. Where I seem to probably be the most particular out of absolutely everybody. I would have to assume,
Huh.
but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Huh. Interesting.
But anyways, that kind of finishes up the 13 cognitive what
Distortions. Cognitive
distortion.
distortions. Yep.
Yep, finishing up with black and white thinking. So we're happy to be back, everybody. We appreciate all you guys staying tuned. It was nice to be able to talk and have this conversation. I feel like things went pretty freely and flowed
Mm-hmm.
pretty well
Yeah.
this year for the first episode of the year.
Yeah. I would say so.
So, all right.
It's been a while.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Oh, I'm not gonna share a story. We're not
Oh
gonna do a
yeah, go
story.
ahead. Yeah, I
Oh,
forgot. Go ahead. You
okay.
got a story.
So we
Story
we
time.
we miss 1 week and then we just throw out the whole schedule of the show, huh?
Yep. I
Okay.
forgot.
So I guess for my story, it's not necessarily a story of remembrance, but kind of over the past couple weeks, it was, I don't know, it's just I had been feeling super down and I'd been missing dad and kind of what was. So I went to the cemetery and I got some flowers from a store and I just kind of took them and I just kind of sat there in silence and kind of thought, and it was just, I don't know, there was just an overwhelming like sense of clarity and just calm that was just there, and I didn't really worry about anything else. It was just kind of sitting there in silence and just being calm. And I don't know. It was just something that I miss, I guess. And I don't know. I was just sitting there in the grass. And it was very powerful for me because I don't know. That week was it was a difficult week for me mentally. It was just sad thinking about dad and thinking about all of the different scenarios and things that we would do and yeah, but yeah, recently I just kind of went there and sat down and it was very emotional, but at the same time it was very I don't know, it cleared my head and it was very calming and at the end it's something that I'm very glad that I did, but yeah.
And when you say calming, like what did that feel like, or like was it just like you were present and like you couldn't really see anything else going on, like any of the
Yeah.
other people walking by or driving around? Were you just there and present with your thoughts? Was it like you were with dad? What were you experiencing?
Yeah, it was just kind of like nothing else really mattered. Like all of the external stresses, all of the external worries, anxieties, all of that. It was just kind of it didn't really matter. It was just thinking about death and thinking about life and just kind of how all of that stuff doesn't it just doesn't matter. And it was very calming and yeah, just kind of it's not like I don't know. It's just the cliche of saying it's like, oh, he's looking over me and I know it, and it's just I don't know. It's just if I don't know. It was just it wasn't like he was there with me, but it's just the thought of being in the presence of where he would be. I guess I don't know. It was something that was calming for me.
Huh. That's really interesting. I wasn't expecting you to share something like that. I expected it to be a story. So,
Yeah.
um, that's I appreciate you sharing that, man.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, that's important. Whether it's someone who has passed away or whether we're going through some difficult times. I think it is important to sit and try to be present with ourselves, remove all forms of social media, remove all forms of distractions, and whether it's looking up into the sky or seeing the beautiful moon as it arises, to be able to just be present with ourselves and seeing where we currently are, who we currently are, and at times, we have a new opportunity with this new year to be able to seek out who we are and find out who we are and where we're at, where we're
Mm-hmm.
going, and ask ourselves deeper questions as we try to find our purpose in life. Maybe it's time to be perplexed by what's going on, or trying to understand what brings us pleasure. Maybe it's just enjoying the simple things,
Mm-hmm.
listening to the wind blow or the leaves or whatever it is. So,
Mm-hmm.
thanks for sharing that, Jake.
Yeah. I think one of the main things is like I don't know. I was just thinking like if he were to kind of realize where I'm at now. Like I'm a very different person now than I was 2 years ago, and just the thought of him seeing like all of the things that I'm doing, all of the ways that I'm improving myself, and I think that's probably what was I don't know, it made me feel good about myself, but also cuz it was always kind of wanting to be better, and I feel like over the course of the past 2 years or so since he's been gone, I feel like I've been good at that, and I don't know. Yeah.
I think his passing has just had that influence on all of us to, I think, try to reach our fullest potential,
Mhm.
that we have the ability to be more than what we currently are,
Mhm.
and to pursue to see what that is. I think if you look at Isaac, like, working in the mechanic field, going and driving a helicopter, Josh, like going and starting like photography, videography, Ashley going into our artistic uh, Brittany being more around the kids and cooking and creating more with family time, and us as a family unit just really realizing how important family time is and being able to spend that together. We've put a huge focus on that
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes there's just so many times that you take things for granted, and then when maybe the the glue that kept everything together is gone,
Mm-hmm.
you realize how important those small things are, and you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
lose them again, or
Yeah.
you want to take advantage of all those times. So,
Yeah.
it's pretty powerful. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
On that note, guys, we appreciate you tuning in. I hope you enjoy the episode. We're back at it for 2025.
Oh
Let's see
yeah.
what this year brings. We're
Oh
excited.
yeah. It's gonna be a good one.
Yeah.
Alrighty. See you later, everybody.
See you guys.